Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here with not Rogan Smith, but instead the person that stole her icon, Mr. Jerome Sawyer. How you doing, sir?
I'm good.
You gotta have an interesting intro, you know.
Yeah, no, for real. People have, I think, coming to know me as that. You know, the doodle.
The doodle stole Rogan Smith.
Who beat Rogan?
They don't know. They don't know. They don't know. No.
Okay.
See, now you do it a spin. Yeah. I do. I said exactly what I knew I said. Okay. Now, of course, you're free to spin it any way you wish.
Yeah.
After all, it affects you, not me. You know.
No,
So how things?
Good, man. I've had an interesting week, an interesting day. They wouldn't let me in the building when I came. I think it was my attire.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, hold on a second.
What?
Let me.
These
I didn't see the front part that was all red.
Yeah.
I just saw the back part that was
I'm
red.
these Bahari pants.
So that's Bahari, like tracksuit?
Yeah, sweatpants.
Oh, okay.
Tracksuit,
all right.
You know.
All right.
As my nephew said, you don't call it warm-up suit, Duggar, all these. Tracksuit. You know?
Well, we used to call it tracksuit.
Yeah.
Or sweatshirt. No, not sweatshirts, but tracksuit.
Sweatsuit. So,
yeah.
I good.
Mm-hmm.
I wore this today to, it's kind of a tribute to rapper, he's a rapper, right? Nipsey, who was murdered.
Not familiar with that.
Let me tell you the interest. No,
okay.
and it's interesting you should say. Let me tell you why I did this. On social media there was like rest in peace Nipsey, and I was like, Nipsey Russell.
Nipsey Russell,
was in the
from the Hollywood Square.
Yeah. Oh, not to make light of that. I was like, but they sure no Nipsey.
No.
And then I thought, I was like, oh, it's the rapper, and I legit did not know who he was. So I took an opportunity to go and read and learn a little bit about him. And there's this whole big thing. He's a famous rapper who was gunned down yesterday. So this is my sort of, I trying to.
So you. This is so lame, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You did not know this person, but yet you're wearing something. You went out and got something to be in tribute.
That's the way in the world. It's like, people don't pay attention to you in life, but when something happens,
even people unknown to you will go and pay tribute to you.
Yes, I want to be a part, I still want to be a part.
Let me say it again.
But it's interesting how how as you get older, you sort of lose touch with, what's important to a lot of people and the masses. And today was a reality check for me in some ways, because I thought, wow, normally I'm up on this kind of stuff, but I had to go and look to see who he was.
So I have a different kind of bent on it.
Mm-hmm.
As you get older, you lose touch with that which is not important. Does that have any possibility of any kind?
Important is relative.
Well, I can give you a classic example. So yeah, when you're growing up, man, and you know what? There's actually real validity to that. Because think about this: Tonka toys is no really important to me. Okay. You know what a Tonka toy is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it's certainly. I've lost touch with those, you could say, but it's not important to me anymore.
But you know what Tonka toys are,
I know what they are.
You know what they
right.
you know what they
But they might have a new model that I don't know.
New
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
let's just say certain toys then I'm out of touch with.
Yeah.
But I don't really deal with toys anymore. Now, granted, there are other, I want to put this correctly, incarnations of toys or categories of toys. Okay, you can apply the word toy to a lot of things.
Big boy toys.
But big boy toys, big girl toys. You even have toy boys. Okay, so the reality is things. I think what happens is you get older, your whole thing is streamlined.
Yeah.
I have no inclination, for instance, to go into a shop. None, to buy things.
No?
I haven't bought things in a shop now in about 5-6 years. So think about it.
Buy online, or
no, I don't buy anything.
You don't buy anything like
think about that.
Like deodorant.
Yeah. I go to CVS.
Okay.
That's a big thing for me.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. I go to CVS, and because other people in the household buy those things. Okay. When I go to CVS, it's a very limited amount of things I get from there. Okay. So I get like maybe shaving. I discovered I don't need shaving cream anymore. I just use the razor to trim up. I don't use shaving cream. I don't shave cream on my head.
You have an electric razor?
No, I have a what you call it? The thing, yeah. The savior of razor bumps to all men. Yeah. This Triple Edge.
Okay.
Triple Edge kind of eliminated razor bumps. You know that, right? For the majority of people, it did. It's like a breakthrough. So I buy razor blades. I buy. I guess I haven't bought shaving cream in a long time because I have a bunch saved up. So I got like some. If you need some shaving cream, come by me.
What are you preparing for? I can
buy
1,000 cases of corn.
No, but I mean, every time I would go, I'd get a couple. Okay. So and then I stopped using them, so they built up.
Okay.
Okay. Right.
So you don't buy stuff. So what if you need shirts?
I have one place I go to shirts. My shirts, my pants. So this is my routine. It's for everyone to know, since everyone's interested in what I do, right? I go to a particular tailor. I get my shirts, pants, jackets from him.
Really?
So twice a year I might go in, pick out some swatches. I don't deal with, I just do like with material. I just go, give me 4 of these 4. Give me this 2, and that's it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's my shopping. And then if I go to Walmart, I get a 6-pack on the pots. You don't even get the 6-pack? Say it's sad. It's not sad.
I don't want to buy the Walmart.
No, why not?
They're comfortable.
They're comfortable to me.
Yeah.
And you know what goes in them, so it don't matter to me. So what I'm saying is, to you, I've streamlined Jerome. And you know what? I've not missed anything. That's what I think people in this country, I say it all the time. You can't
say country, people in the world. People are different and they use.
In the world. You're right. Yes. You're right.
And they
consumer. I don't think the people in Pakistan are doing it, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I have sort of a different view because I had a conversation with somebody today about how, for instance, social media looks at like your algorithms and it mines information in order to it looks at consumer habits in order to sell that information for people, retailers to be able to target you.
Right.
So a lot of people
they run into a blank when they come at me.
Yeah, shopping and going to stores and things of that nature, they appeal to different things for different people. Like I have a completely different view. Like I shop as therapy. Like that's something like when I buy new shoes, I feel renewed. I'm like, something different is in my life.
This is an experiment I want you to conduct. Okay? When you next go to a mall, which apparently will be next day, tomorrow or next week, okay? I want you to notice when you come to the outside the mall. Okay, this isn't in the mall now when people are in the frenzy.
Right.
When you come outside and you're standing up and people are waiting to get their car or waiting for a ride, I want you to look at the faces of the people on the outside of the mall having gone through the frenzy. At that moment, the moment that hits them and says, what did I just do?
I usually have that moment.
Okay. It's the moment where they go, I have these wonderful shoes, but rent due tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is a kind of a adrenaline thing, right? And it appeals to your senses. But in reality, if you don't do it, and you don't do it long enough, like me, you don't feel like you're missing anything. So the first shop that closed down during the 2008 crisis, you know what it was? Sharper Image.
I remember.
And you know why? Because nothing in that store anyone needs. It's all just gadgets and fun stuff.
If you look at it, probably 80% of what we buy we don't necessarily need. But again, it speaks to, we've been conditioned in many ways.
Marketing.
To think that we need these things and these things add value.
You have to have
it.
Like women have to have 18 different lotions. Right. They have to have it.
Because they all smell different.
And they all do something different that saves you from aging.
You feel like you have one less wrinkle.
Imagine something where they can tell you, right, that if you buy this product, you will not age. But yet,
tell you that
but
now.
they do. That's what I'm saying. No, I'm saying. But yet they keep telling you that for all the different products, and you haven't caught on yet to like it's all a lie.
They make it up. But people buy and people do things to feel. Supposedly to feel good about themselves. I'll use this weekend as an example. Thousands of people, hundreds, however many, went out to the Buju concert. Now, if you did a survey of how many people out there would have bought something new or worn something new or done something in order to feel a certain way. So it's one thing, I bought this ticket, I'm going to this concert, but I want to feel a certain way. And so I need to do something to myself in order to get that gratification as well. And that's why people... purchase
I think
and do.
that going to a concert or going on a trip, right? That has more to me. This is only me. I'm not trying to judge for other people, but that has more lasting meaning than, say, a shoes. Okay, especially women who buy shoes and basically they don't want to wear it again. They don't want to wear that. They don't want to wear out a shoe. Notice I say a shoes.
Don't let it be an outstanding shoe. Oh, no, I can't be seen in this again.
No, exactly. We're going to be right back. We'll continue the conversation. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Jerome Sawyer, our esteemed guest. See, in the first segment, you're the stealer of icons. In this segment, you're the esteemed guest, okay? So, that's how I go. We're balanced. What do people say on the other that Fox station? Balance. What is it? Fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced.
We're fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced.
Yeah. No. They're like FEAR. Yeah, this, we can't, obviously, we don't know what's going on, but what's with the mystery abductor? This is obviously some person who's got something going on.
It's the oddest thing because I read something this morning where somebody, an authority says there's a family member or somebody who has to know that somebody is doing this. There's somebody who's withholding some information. It is very bizarre. And it's frightening because it also tells me that we have a society that's still very vulnerable and not taking these things seriously. But there's obviously somebody out there who is troubled by something, or somebody just thinks this is a really sick prank.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. It's a prankish thing, but I think it's someone who's a little unbalanced maybe, and who's doing this. But and hopefully we get them before.
A little either you is or you ain't.
I mean, I would consider, for instance, me to be a little off. But you're saying I'm a lot off. That's what you're saying. Actually, I have a view of myself that really it's not me who's the one who's insane.
Of course,
it's everyone else.
Somebody understands me. I say it all the time. You all are the ones who are misunderstood. I know clearly what I'm doing.
In fact, I used to say, and I don't even remember it now, and people would say, you're nuts. I go, well, I would say to them, the only reason you think I'm nuts is because, you're nuts. So you think you're nuts. I don't know how I said it. Yeah, so I hope they get that person. They had that person soon. That's it's scary. This thing with the Kravitz thing. I'm going to talk off air about that to you and see what you think about what I have to say.
Like the Lenny
Kravitz thing. Because I don't know how they compare the thing. I mean, that's obviously what the court thought as well. But I mean, just in the purest, simplest way, right? Okay. So let me use you as an example, because if I use me, people think I better use me because I don't want to down you. So I'll use me. So if I go, well, listen, Ollie Ferguson, you know how much, what do you name, Lawrence O'Donnell making?
I need
to be making that kind of money.
No, ain't serious. Are we paid?
You see what I'm saying? Y'all ain't serious. Lawrence O'Donnell have a show. It's only an hour. This is an hour and a half. I'm supposed to be making one at a time as much as him. It's just not an equal comparison, is it? It's different markets, different accomplishments.
I agree with you completely. And, sometimes we have to accept where we are. We have to accept our demographic. We have to accept, like I tell people, like what I make doing the things that I do. Like Don Lemon spends my salary probably on lunch.
Yeah.
But then I don't have 6 million viewers every night.
With 20 million in advertising each night.
Exactly. So I can't say that I deserve the same salary that he makes. I may be, in terms of ability, I may be comparable, and that's fine.
But the market doesn't demand that.
Will not allow for that kind of
if somehow you could find $1 million a year in show revenue, then you're gonna have a chat with. Then you'll have a chat.
We could talk.
Yeah, because they can't make the million without you.
No.
But if they're only making 10 cents, you only can get a share to take 10.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm with you on that, man. I understand.
And there's something else I want to share with you, but yeah, I think it's very important for people to really put things in context. And then we always go, because I think what's behind this is just my opinion, is a wonderful word called contingency. Okay? And that is whichever lawyer she has, he's working on a contingency and trying to get his yeah. But I have very sound reasons for that view that I will not necessarily share on air. I'm going to ask Jerome his opinion.
I think it's unfortunate that it's playing out publicly the way that it is. I always look at things like that. So, yeah.
What else is new from your perspective? I've completely off of the Trump thing now. I can't deal with it.
What else is new?
Yeah.
News is such an interesting cycle because, for instance, you see like the political news goes into a frenzy.
Oh, they waiting
all
for that.
All of a sudden, and then it'll die down quietly, and then you sort of sit and you wait for the next big thing.
Well, it's like they're waiting for something to be thrown into the water. It's like the shark frenzy.
Yeah.
The sharks are just gliding around, and as soon as you just throw a piece of meat into the water, and then it's forgotten.
Well, what I find a little disconcerting is nothing to do with politics, but I think this is where those of us in the media do a disservice to our community and our people. You look at a potential, the potential sale of the Grand Line now, and what that could possibly mean. I mean, and there are obviously this information that would have come out in the official announcement, but where is the continued analysis? Where is the continued impact? And I'm talking about good and bad. You would have sort of had the politicians on, but where are our great economists? Where are our where are the
analysts.
folks, our analysts? Where are economists? Where are our social scientists who are sort of looking at the impact of these things on our people, on the economy? And I'm talking, when I say impact, doesn't necessarily mean just positive impact. You talk about impact overall. And so it's like it's announced by government. Opposition has to say, you have a few pundits, and then it's done. And at the end of the day, the people are still left with not a clear understanding of what all of this really, really means.
Well, we had someone on the show recently, and I can't remember who it was, but what I said to them was one of the things. Oh, I know what it was. It wasn't someone on the show. Someone who I met, and I need to contact him. That you got that UB down there, and you have this massive amount of this wealth of knowledge, and we reservoir, and we don't tap into that, and they should be really the leading lights of that which is expert. Because let's face it, if you teach physics, you're expert in that. If you teach social science, and we don't go to that. We just go to the same people.
The problem is?
What's that, sir?
And this is what I find, that people are afraid or reluctant. I mean, not afraid. People are reluctant to give commentary and analysis and information because the minute it contradicts a group or something, they come under attack.
That's true. Yeah.
And the minute it goes again, it contradicts somebody, it's, you're being political or you're being anti this or against that, because you're giving commentary or analysis that may be in opposition to something.
Well, what's good about that now is that the UB, to the legislation to become a university, is independent. Can be independent of that, right?
Institution, but people are labeled. Oh, you come on, you said that, you gotta be so and so.
Yeah, but I mean, that usually to me is concerning when they feel that it impacts their job, for instance. Yeah. So if you're a tenured professor, the hell with you got.
But are you prepared to take that kind of public scrutiny? And again, you look at sort of the experts in other parts of the world who live in a city with 3 million people. Yeah. So it's okay for you to move about. But the minute you sort of appear, people know who you are. So you're in the food store and,
But you got to be prepared to be able to deal with some things in a non-political way. Yeah. So if you're talking economics, you're just dealing with theory. Yeah. You're not talking about what the PLP say or what the FNM say. You're dealing with, like, when we have Rupert, we're dealing with just theories of economics.
But people
can't
handle that. I can tell you, it's very
well,
difficult.
We got to open up that tap then, so that more and more people come out, and then you can gender less fair.
We allow the politicians to hijack all of the conversations.
Right.
And then we complain, the politicians are always talking. But we allow them.
That's where we go to.
That's where we go to. The media goes to them, other people will, experts who have legitimate things to say, will move away from it.
Well, the media could very easily go to experts and not put it on record in terms of who they said. Just get the background information.
It's easy. You could call so and so, and they, oh yeah, I got something to say, but
But you're talking about the Freeport thing.
Yeah.
It also shows us something that is very concerning to me, as someone who wants to see this country just erupt. Okay, and I think erupt is a good thing because New Providence can erupt. We can withstand an eruption. The Family Islands, unlike other countries that don't have those Family Islands, we can still use those Family Islands as our respites and our rustic spots, right? But often weak leadership and misinformed, punditry and discourse stops it. So, for instance, look at the Grand Lucayan. You recall the conversation when that was being sold?
Oh yes, very clearly.
Okay. Now, in reality, the government really had no choice. So you don't even have to chalk that up to any kind of great leadership. They really had no choice. But the punditry and the discourse and the dissension could have very well led them to say, "Let's don't do that. That gross election." But I mean, it's less than 9 months later, right? When was that? When was that purchased?
I have to look at the exact date, but it's not been a year.
Okay, and now it's essentially been sold for the same amount that was purchased. Obviously, the government would have lost some money in the recurring expenditures to keep it open, but hopefully, through economic activity, they'll recover that whatever they lost in the recurring expenditure side.
I asked this question over and over when I host my show. When we talked about it, I said, "What should have been the alternative?"
They never have an alternative. It's always
those people have been allowed to be out of work. It was, I'll give you this story. I went into Grand Bahama. We went to do the show right after, or during this whole process of government purchasing the hotel. And the taxi driver who picked it up, he was taking us to the car rental place. And I said to him, what do you think about what's about to happen? He said, "Mr. Sawyer, Freeport was looking down the barrel of a gun."
And this is just an average guy.
And that was the greatest analogy that I've heard to this. He said we were looking down the barrel of a gun. He said, while as a Bahamian, I'm not thrilled with government getting into the business of owning a hotel. As a Grand Bahamian, that was the last lifeline we had.
Well, put it this way: it's the same as when Obama had to buy GM or put the money into GM. Okay, which ended up turning around and paying the money back and benefiting those people who work there. Because the government's job in that case was to take whoever finger was on the trigger off. But the guy, you said he put it in there. And so you wonder what people, you just wonder what people are for. But, I'm now of the impression, and I know this sounds a little condescending, that it isn't that what people are for or what they're against. They just want to say their thing. And they don't have any background, they don't have any basis.
Yeah, it's a lack of information. And then what bothers me more than anything else is that you have people who are knowledgeable, who should know better, but continue to feed into the hysteria. Because some of the things I hear,
to their benefit.
It is to their benefit. Because some of the things I hear, I read, and I see, and I go, but this isn't true, or I this is ridiculous. But again, people are entitled to opinions, and you're entitled to form your own opinion. But the problem is, and it's not just a problem that we have here, because now of the access to information, a lot of what people see, read, hear is not true. It's manufactured by groups, it's manufactured by people who have an agenda. And so a lot of times I say to people when they come to me, they'll say, well, Mrs. Sawyer, what do you think about so and so? And I back up and I say, well, let's think about it for a minute. Let's talk about it. Let's analyze it. Let's start with the facts. Let's agree on what the facts are. Right. And then let's start to base our opinions. But a lot of times it's just sort of emotion that people throw into it, or it's just it is deliberate misinformation that creates all of this hysteria, and then more misinformation, and before you know it, you got a frenzy on your hands.
There were two things I saw over the weekend which kind of gave me pause over the last week as to where politics are. So the opposition, I don't know what their position was. I can't recall what their position was on the purchasing of Grand Lucayan, but I don't think it was positive.
No.
Okay. Yeah. But then the flip side is when they then sold it, there wasn't really like congratulations.
No, there were two.
We have to wait for the devil's in the details.
Let's take a look at the details.
Details,
and then
right,
I saw
right. Yeah.
Another member say, the numbers weren't adding up.
And it's just off the top. What numbers? Do you have numbers? I don't have numbers. No, okay. Now the other one I thought.
The opposition to.
That's it. But here's what I'm saying now, and this is our role as people and things. The other one I saw was. There was some rules like with regard to cell phones and
drinking and
driving.
Yeah.
And I heard someone, I don't know who it was. The comment was that fines are going to cause more hardship on people. Now, so there's someone getting in a car accident and killing someone. What kind of hardship?
That's all right. Well, they run up in the back of you. That's cool. I don't hardship.
Or the fact that they have to have or the fact that they have to have I think the fact that you have to have your license, your, what do you call it, insurance in the car. This is a hardship. No, it's not.
Put it in the glove compartment.
Glove compartment. As soon as you get it, glove compartment. Now, the hardship might be you didn't have an insurance, and that's another problem because that's against the law.
And if you cannot afford insurance, park the car.
It's against the law.
But, we go, and here's the hypocrisy now. We go to the United States. We don't pick up the phone. We don't drink and drive. We keep the insurance in the glove compartment.
Got the baby in the seat.
Always have the ID on us.
You got the baby in the seat.
But all of a sudden, when we get here, it can cause hardship.
That's
too much.
Let me tell you why it doesn't cause hardship. Don't do it.
Simple.
See that? See, if you don't want to pay the $150 or the $200 or the $5 million fine, just don't do it. I cannot deal with people who say that the enforcement of a law or the introduction of a law to create order can create, like, for instance, litter law. As far as I'm concerned, you get caught littering out of your car.
Boom.
What do you call it? Pound your car for 2 weeks. Don't tell me about hardship. The hardship is what you're causing on this environment, and you don't ever have to do it.
And it's unnecessary.
You don't have to do it.
It's crazy. Keep your garbage in your car until you get where you're going and throw it away. That's a simple thing. Why is that so hard to do?
It's a hardship. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here, along with. There's no more. I've done my fair and balanced. Jerome Sawyer, who's sitting in for Rogan Smith, who is under the weather. You can stop by and give her some soup or something like that, Jerome. You're good like that.
I guess that's a message.
Yeah, a soup message. But our special guest this afternoon, and we make every attempt. We were talking about Jerome off the air. Well, not off the air, but on the air about. You end up going to the same people over and over and over again, and really the true stars you don't hear from. And it's very important that we make sure and highlight those who are really making an immense contribution to what's happening. Now, our guests this afternoon are the principal of R.M. Bailey, Mr. Colin Johnson. And Calvano, I don't know what your title is down there, but this is Mr. McIntosh. What do you do down there?
I'm a teacher.
A teacher? Okay. All right. Well, that's very, one of the things that we talk about all the time, this is just a kind of a segue, is how in it's interesting, Mr. Johnson, that I bring this up because when I was in QC, Queens College, back in 1975, Highbury High, which was then the name of R.M. Bailey, was pumping out as many BGCSE, in those days GCE students, as QC. And something went awry. I don't know what went awry. We wouldn't get into that. But I think it had a lot to do with valuing teachers, putting the kind of support behind teachers that you did lawyers and doctors and accountants. And as we put the value there, you would attract the best and the brightest like you do in those other fields, okay? But we didn't value policemen. We didn't value teachers. We didn't value nurses. And so, you know the routine. But we have a good man here. I've been hearing a lot about you. Colin Johnson, the principal. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful and good evening to all of them. Good evening.
I hope you don't allow them in school. That's the cell phone. But Mr. Johnson, I've been hearing a lot of good reports about how essentially R.M. Bailey is a success story in 2018. Tell us about some of the things that you've accomplished. And how long have you been there?
A little over 6 years. But okay. I want to first say hello to all of my staff members, my administrative staff, my teaching staff, because they are the ones who are behind this. You know, I'm just the principal, and I guess I get all of the accolades, attributes simply because I'm the principal. But it's because of those persons who they work extremely hard. They motivated my kids, and therefore the kids did well. We would have been at 48% in the school year 2017-2018.
That's graduation.
With students for the 2 point or above, 48%. And we set a goal of wanting to reach 52%. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Ulysses Beneby for the 40X initiative that assisted us well. We surprised ourselves. We went from 48% to 65% this year, where we had some 409 students who would have achieved a 2.0 or above average. And so we celebrated 65% of the students who achieved a 2.0 or above average. But we had 409 students who would have achieved a 2.5 to a 4-point average. We had 25 who were on the principal's list. That is a 3.5 to a 4-point. We had 161 who had an average of a 3-point to a 3.5, 3.49, yes. And then we had 223 who had a 2.5 to a 2.99. And so we celebrate those kids. You see, Aaron Bailey is not in no competition with no school. Let me make that clear. This ain't no game. We are about excellence in Aaron Bailey, making sure that our kids achieve. Because at Aaron Bailey, we believe that every child can learn. Every child must learn, because every child deserves a life. And we accomplish all of this simply because of discipline. Because we say if they're not disciplined, they cannot be focused. And if they're not focused, they cannot be successful. And so I
see my man over there got the mantra down, man.
and so they ain't seen nothing yet. This country hasn't seen anything yet. And we're now trying to reach 85% of our students to have a 2.0 above average.
I know there's another gentleman we had on. We're going to continue to have these success on, Mr. McCoy down at Anatole Rogers. I know he's also doing some good stuff. But, I want to go to this thing about discipline, because we just, ironically, Jerome and I were talking about, law and order. And there was some statement made about enforcing the law would create hardship, right? Keeping your insurance on you or something. But that's the law. Why is it hardship to put, to have it when you buy it? You get your insurance. You got to go get the insurance. You got to get in your car to get to the insurance company. Just put the insurance in the glove compartment. It's always there. Is this the same kind of mentality we've been having all along, that, just let it slide?
No. See, if anyone out there who knows Mr. Johnson, they know how Mr. Johnson do. I am a disciplinarian. And whatever it takes to make sure that my kids become successful, that is what is going to happen. While we believe in discipline, we also love our kids. And that's why they all buy into what we're doing. It is so wonderful now. I hear my kids on the streets talking about their averages, what they're going to do, because they bought into what we're doing. You see, now, I have a system. And they came up with this formula. The environment plus discipline equals learning. The environment has to be clean. You cannot say if you treat them like pigs, they're gonna act like hogs. And so our children must be in a clean environment. Everything must be clean. Mind you, our Bailey has some old buildings, 50 years plus. Old buildings.
My friend says some of them need to get pulled down and start again.
Yes, and Aaron Bailey may be the perception out there is that Aaron Bailey is in a ghetto. While that may be so, I always say Aaron Bailey is not a ghetto school. Aaron Bailey is a school of excellence, and we will continue to produce.
I want to talk to you, Jerome. Please feel free to jump in, because I know you're doing some work with these guys as well. But I love the fact that you talk about this environment. I remember seeing two particular things, and then I did a tour, which is surprising, and maybe that's where I saw you. There was a school in England where it was a city school, and the grades were bad, the behavior was bad, and so they built a brand new school, and the school had atriums, you could see the sun, and it was landscaping in the hallways, etc., and the grades shot up. The Seed School, which you may or may not be familiar with in Washington, D.C., where they took kids and they put them in a boarding school, and they had teachers nurture them from 7 to 10 at night, right? Where the district where something like 2% went to college, 50-something, 60% dropout. When they did that, 98% go to college. I toured the schools sometime around 2013 with some people to look at how we could do a simple thing, and that is to improve the school playing fields. Okay? I was appalled to go and see dust bowls where some of these kids are. And I said, well, this we can't treat our children this way. How have you been able to make a change in the environment so that there are green fields, there's landscaping, there's an oasis? The school should be the oasis, right? Have you been able to do that?
Well, we have 3 yard men there who are doing a wonderful job. They take pride in what they do, and I think that has led to the behavior of the children, and that just carried on into learning. Mm-hmm. I applaud them for that. That is something that I stand for: a clean environment. Recently we got a pressure cleaner. Commercial pressure cleaner, so we're cleaning on our buildings. Mm-hmm. We're painting our buildings. See, we're not waiting until...
Do the kids get involved in that?
Yes, we're not waiting until the summer. If you come on our Bailey campus now, I always say to them that whenever anyone enters that campus, the campus must seem to be organized. There must be learning taking place. Mm-hmm. You must walk in an environment. The environment must be conducive to learning. No chaos, nothing. And so when you leave with that first impression, that should be a lasting one.
I wish we had more and more people thinking this way. When I was a kid, Mr. Johnson, I went to a place called Zivers College. And if you got caught littering, what that meant was a myriad of things that you did not wish to experience again. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about that. I want to talk about how you're instilling those very, very basic values into your kids that will help them in their learning. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Mr. Colin Johnson and Mr. I hope I get it right, Navarro. Is that right?
Delvano
McIntosh. I get the McIntosh because he introduced himself to me as McIntosh. Mm-hmm. Every time I say in your name, McIntosh. Which is a boot, I think, or something like that, right? The McIntosh. No, what do you call it? A raincoat. Yeah.
And tractors as well.
Yeah. we have Mr. Johnson is the principal at R.M. Bailey, which, by the way, you bring up an interesting thing about the auditorium, because when I was in Queens College didn't have an auditorium, and we had to come to R.M. Bailey, Highbury High, to do our speech day because they had an auditorium in those days. I don't know if you still have an auditorium. But, you talk about this thing about school spirit, and I don't know if you're a sports guy. You seem to be someone who like for coaching and all that kind of stuff. The fact that each school doesn't have proper sporting facilities so that kids can be involved in sports, at a really enhanced level, and getting parents to support those sports things brings school spirit, doesn't it?
It surely does. You can imagine you have all of these schools and they have an auditorium where you have your home and your away games. It builds school spirit. And from that, it causes the culture of the school to change. Mm-hmm. And when the culture of the school changes, the climate changes, everything changes, you will see an improvement in the level of education.
People support the school more.
Yes.
You can bring in additional revenue.
That's right.
And but you can't have the games at 3:00 in the afternoon when people working. You got to have them on the weekends or Fridays or in the evenings. But then that brings the families out. Yes. How do you get something? We've been talking about that for a while. How do you get that started? We always want to build new classrooms and more. How do we focus on that? Sports could actually be a salvation for schools, even just on the revenue, from the revenue perspective.
It's always been my view that no school in this country should ever have a need for anything, simply because of the persons who would have passed through the various schools. Aaron Bailey is 50 years plus. Mm-hmm. The caliber of persons that we have, how about the doctors, the lawyers. We have about 6 or 7 persons who are in House of Assembly. Aaron Bailey should never have a need for anything. Presently, we're trying to get our library sorted out, and we're going to rename that the Bonita Butler Resource Center. We need some help there. We need some help with computers in the school. You see, these are the kids that we are preparing for employment out there. They're going to work for someone of them. Mm-hmm. And so if we don't get that kind of assistance, what is it that we can do?
What would you say because I know I've been involved in some of this. I know the University of Bahamas has a little bit of experience. Your alumni involvement.
There are some things that can be done. Mm-hmm. At the scale that it is now, presently, I am not too satisfied with it. I'm not. Mm-hmm. Because, like I said, computers are needed. If we can equip, say, 2 to 3 classrooms with computers, maybe, yes, I can be or will be satisfied. But there's a lot of work to be done. Yeah. And the persons are out there that can do it.
Mm-hmm. First of all, I want to commend you for the wonderful work that you all are doing at Aaron Bailey. I think what you have done and with your administration, your staff, your teachers, what you have done is you have shown that despite what people say about students within the public school system, that they can be a success and they can achieve. It just takes a different way of doing things and tackling it differently. And it's interesting you say that you're not in a competition. And while that may be true, I think, though, that you are an inspiration. And that's more important. I have to put in my own disclaimer. I come to your campus every Tuesday afternoon. My fraternity Kappa Alpha Psi does a mentoring program, which we started. And I want to say publicly thank you for allowing us to come, because we came and sat in your office and told you what we wanted to do, and you never hesitated to allow us to come in. And part of what we do with the young men in the afternoons is attempt to prepare them for life after school. We try to bring in speakers and create opportunities where they begin to see what they're about to face. What I have determined in my few weeks there is that despite the academics and the learning, a lot of our young men especially are not prepared or don't have the right social skills that they need to survive. As simple as getting them to just stand up and introduce themselves can be a challenge. Mind you, when they're talking among themselves, they're fine. I did an exercise with them myself last week where we went over, sort of the attributes of public speaking and talked to them about, how to be comfortable when you go on a job interview and how to shake hands and just basic things you should know and do. And it's not that I don't think that it comes through enough at school, but it doesn't seem that there's even a reinforcement at home and these other things, because while somebody may be academically equipped, if you can't get through a basic interview, you are not going to land that job. I mean, do you find that to be a big part of what our children are facing?
Yeah, basically all over, And then to piggyback of that, I believe in this country we need to have more trade schools. And I believe if you have schools where there is a reform in the educational system as to what is presented to these young men, probably the culture, the mindset will change. Because, in June we have over 5,000 kids coming out. Mm-hmm. What is going to happen?
It's 4,000.
They're not prepared.
Counterparts. They're counterparts. 4,000.
And so there has to be a reform in our educational system. to accommodate these young people. Yeah. Trade schools.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, I remember one of my best friends to this day. He came out of school. He was great at woodworking. He was the first person to have a business because he didn't bother with it. Academics was not his forte. Mm-hmm. But going back to this point that Jerome is harping on about presenting, which is basic. There's some basic things. Do we have in our schools, for instance, even in college? When I was in college, there was a public speaking course that I attended.
Success Day in business.
And when I went to this course, there were people in that class who were petrified to stand up in front of someone. But by the end of that course, their life was changed. Mm-hmm. Do we have public speaking classes in schools?
No, we don't. And that's why I say there has to be a transformation in the educational system.
He's right. Yeah.
See?
Yeah, because I mean,
we have to address some things.
Basic needs.
Yes. See, we have to look and see what is needed in our country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is needed in this country.
Yeah.
And so then we design.
That's what needed in England.
Yes. No. Then we have to design our curriculum to meet the needs of our country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when
we know that Jerome, it's so interesting, Jerome, that you hit on that, right? Mm-hmm. Because I remember speaking to a school and saying to them, because it was a very short speech, if you don't learn the King's English, you could have dialect all you want, that's fine. But if you don't know when someone comes in to interview with me, if they can't speak to me, and another person comes along who can, that person has the advantage. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to maintain eye contact, something simple as that. So it seems to me that and by the way, you create opportunities. You have people out there who aren't working teachers, right? Who want to work. Well, there should be public speaking courses that can be offered in the schools. In every school, that should be a basic thing.
And just basic, for me, as I see it, just basic development of skills. Basic communication skills.
Social skills.
Take your hands out your pocket. Raise your head up when you talk.
Right.
You are I'm standing 2 rows from you and I can't hear what you're saying. And not that I'm sure teachers don't say this to them from time to time, but I'm also hoping that more people on the outside would take an opportunity to get involved and to do these things. Because, as a student, you remember your teacher says something every day and you keep hearing the same thing over and over again. You say, yeah. But the minute somebody else walks in and tells you the same thing or tells you something, all of a sudden you sort of sit up and take note and say, well, maybe what the teacher's saying ain't so wrong, or maybe I have to think differently. But for me, I just wonder, I see it's a particular mindset as if, hey, I okay, and I
well, it's reinforcement, right? Yeah, it's reinforcement. Yeah. Mr. McIntosh, what's your view on, from the basis of the problem, why our young men particularly, but also the young ladies, I see it with them too, has this kind of, they're intimidated. In a group they could behave a certain way, right? But individually they're almost intimidated. They lack confidence. What is at the base of that?
Confidence is a big issue.
As the public should be aware, if the public has been following what we have been doing in education, the Ministry of Education is currently, I think, on its 3rd cohort of graduating students with a National High School Diploma. I think initially in its first phase, they started something where hearing the cries from the public in reference to students lacking basic skills for the workforce, such as communication skills, interview skills. We started a job readiness program that was eventually dismantled because we were having some challenges with reference to teachers and providing opportunities for students for that particular course. It was dismantled in terms of its original concept.
Okay.
It is still being done in our family life classes. However, I'm not certain if we have sufficient contact time with the students to do it in the large groups.
You all have to do it as teachers.
Yeah, the Family Life program, where all students do Family Life. The Family Life program, from my understanding, they're supposed to incorporate.
But that's different, man.
I thought Family Life. We are. I think the basic idea was sort of kind of revamping the family life curriculum to accommodate that, because most of what kids were learning in family life we were finding that for the most part it was crossing over with their biology curriculum, and so it was. That's my understanding.
Yeah. Biology class was different from family life.
What
for me,
that's my understanding.
But even back in my day, we didn't mind calling it sex education. They call it family life now. But even in my day, we didn't mind, which is like a million years ago.
Family life, I learned about contraception. I didn't learn that in biology.
To answer your question, I think that presently we don't have sufficient contact time. For the most part, in terms of interview skills and the things for which you're seeking for, you find that the business students would be more exposed to those skills versus a child who is perhaps in a carpentry course or art course.
But you have. Let me just say this real quick you have in any graduating class how many people?
Like our graduation classes here is over 300.
Okay. It is simply my perspective. This to Mr. Johnson's point about what we need.
Yes.
Not what we want, but what we need, right? We should be saying, if we identify, and this is not a criticism, it's just a discussion. If we know that a vast majority of our kids are coming out ill-prepared to just simply communicate. And by the way, let me tell you this. It's not just about the interview. I'm in the hotel industry, and I can tell you that one of our biggest problems that we have is the ability for people, our workers, to engage with people, whether they're a waiter, a front desk clerk, etc. That's all a part of that social skill, right? And so if we know that, and our number one industry is that, that means that every single student, it should be mandatory that they go through a public speaking course. Or some kind of
even if you get volunteers from the public to come, because there are people out there who can do those
designed to meet
agreed.
That's what
should be designed.
It should be designed. You're quite right.
I just don't think we have sufficient contact time. Perhaps we need more persons like yourself.
What do you mean? You mean
class time. Perhaps we need more professionals like Mr. Sawyer that comes and devotes his time in the afternoon. Come and see Mr. Johnson from 8 to 4, and that will provide us with these services. Presently, I don't believe that. I think our major problem is the fact that we don't have sufficient contact time with our kids to provide them with these skills. Not all of them. Some of them have it. Some of them, they are good.
Some of them I tell them, okay, enough.
I'm going to interview over 100 in the next several weeks.
I hear Mr. McIntosh. Okay, he assists my administration very well. Again, it comes down to designing your curriculum. And that is what we need. Let's put in our curriculum.
Don't we say, Mr. Johnson, that every student, we used to, I know we do it now, there are certain core courses they must have. So if you're a grade, 12 student, you got to have math. You got to have English, right? They expect you to go through them. But I'm sure there's some good courses that you could drop and say, instead of one of them, everyone have to go through public speaking. And then that'll get Mr. McIntosh contact time.
What I say to what I find, and I say to them, I said, it doesn't matter what job you're going for. If you're going to be a carpenter, if you're going to trade school to be an electrician, you still have to get a job once you are done with that trade. If you're going into business for yourself, you still need to be able to communicate. I'll give you a story that I gave them last week. I was sitting in an establishment, and a fellow walking in a pair of shorts and a white beater, some slippers, headphones on. He walked in the reception and, Miss, y'all got any job here?
No.
So she said, so of course I looked up immediately and stopped what I was doing. So young fella, so she said, well, yeah, we have, what kind? So she said, well, what you interested in? And so he said, I can have the application. So she said, well, yeah, you can fill it out. Oh, I can't take it. So she said, no. So he filled it out. And he sat there for about half an hour. I went to my meeting, came back, played like I was still doing something because I wanted to see how this was going to play out. when he was done with the application, he handed it to her. Okay, so someone can call me, right? So she said, well, yeah, we'll go. So after he left, I said, Miss, you could throw it away. She said, I'm going to, she said, I'm going to make notes on it. Right. So, and I said to the boys, the receptionist, from the moment you walk through the door, is making an assessment of whether you can get that job. And like, they laugh and I gave them the story, but I said, how many of you thought that was okay? And that's the thing. I find that a lot of young people don't understand how their behavior impacts their success.
See, if you do what Mr. Johnson is saying, and I'm sorry that we are dominating your time.
I'm Bailey, by the way.
If you do what Mr. Johnson is saying, that eventually you won't need that because that'll become the culture. But right now, there's a cultural shift that we have to have, a behavioral shift, something that, I always said, we have gone through 30 or 40 years of accepting things a certain way, and we're now paying for it.
Yes. So when we look at the crime level, it can be traced straight back. Because if you're not preparing these children for the outside world, then what are they going to do? When the poverty hits them, they have to live. Everybody needs housing, clothing, food. They need those things. And so we have to prepare these young people. And that's why there has to be a reform in the education system, what it is that we are giving these young people in school. Prepare them for life.
Practical living. We take a break? We're going to take a break. We come back. We'll talk with Mr. Colin Johnson and Mr. McIntosh from R.M. Bailey about what's happening in our schools. Very interesting stuff. I've got to ask my good friend Mr. Johnson and Mr. McIntosh, or as we would say in the British world, Messrs. Johnson and McIntosh, a very, very basic question. And we know the challenges of compensation. We know all of those challenges. But not many people are prepared to deal with, and I'm going to put it out there, the quality of teacher. Now, what is your estimation, and you guys are the ones in the trenches, on the impact of a good teacher versus a bad teacher? What's your assessment of that?
Well, I try to motivate my teachers. I say to them that, you all play an integral part in the lives of these children. Whenever they leave this institution, make sure that there's something good that they can say about you. I use, as an example, I said, let's say when you become old, you're crossing the road, and a car stops, and say, go across. Are you going to hear the engine rev up? Or the person's going to put the car in park and step out and say, I remember you, Mrs. Anna, for the good job that you did for me at R.M. Bailey. Come, let me escort you across the road. Which one of those is going to happen for you? And so you must leave a legacy in teaching. I said last week Tuesday to my class, because I'm now trying to go around to my classes, speak to my kids, trying to motivate them, because we're looking forward to 85%. And I said, tomorrow you would think that those teachers have a key for those institutions of them. They say, what institutions, Ms. Johnson? I said, Royal Bank, First Caribbean, Nova Scotia, IBOB, Commonwealth Bank. You think they have a key? That's payday. They're going to be there. Whether you learn or not, they're going to be there. So use them. Don't refuse them. If by chance any of them refuse, you come and you see me, because somehow they don't need to be here. Because their mission is to help you, to help us to attain that 85%. And so my teachers are doing a good job.
It's a special breed of person, man.
Yes.
I'll tell you, because, when you consider, like I say, and you made some allusion to Finland, but there's some allusion you can make in the fact that places like Korea, who value the teacher, okay, they attract those who excelling, right, and who are really doing what you're saying, and that is creating a legacy. I think I don't know how we turn it around, and I wouldn't put you in a position. I know that it's a public school system, etc. I wouldn't want to put you in a position of having to to comment on that, but there is a realization, I think, that there's got to be some accountability by the teacher as well. Would you not agree, Mr. McIntosh?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay.
And I think to some extent there is. I'm a product of going to a public school. I went to school in Abaco. I went to Estibola High School. And in reflection, I can't say that I had any horrible teachers in my high school experience. I became a teacher because a history teacher because I had a very good history teacher. Her name is Miss Therese Boodle Bethel Lang. She's now the magistrate.
She owned the school. Like she named Boodle and the school named Boodle.
she's now a magistrate, a family island administrator in North Abaco. And I became a teacher because she encouraged me to become a teacher. And so that goes to show you how a good teacher can impact. I think for me, I encountered most of my bad teachers in college. When I went to the University of the Bahamas, I had this geography teacher, God bless her heart, who was just horrible. I went through many courses with her. I learned nothing. And until I became a teacher myself, and I had to learn this concept to teach to my children.
But let me ask you, why is it, by the way, that Family Island schools seem to do better?
Because I think based on my evaluation, because I've never taught in family school, only attended, but based on my evaluation, I think that for the most part, Family Island students, they have far less distractions.
It's a different culture.
It's a totally different culture. Yeah. Even parental involvement is different. Right. There is, and the community involvement is different as well. The community forces you to learn. I recall my first year in high school, my GPA was 1.90. My mother told that to the entire community. Every place I went, they reminded me of how horrible I was doing. And I think that was the thing that encouraged me to actually do better. And so I went from a 1.90 to a 2.77 to a 3 point until I graduated valedictorian, because the community constantly reminds you that education is your passport to be successful.
We have a kind of a different scenario here, Mr. McIntosh, where Mr. Johnson, where there's actually a kind of you ain't cool if you learn it in some of our communities. Do you have to fight that? You know, some of our inner city communities, for instance, you're not the coolest guy on the block if you're the smartest guy on the block.
See, my thing is we just have to change the culture, the mindset of the young people. And that is what we try to do at RMBL, to change the mindset. When I first went there, I saw kids walking through Montel Heights on the main road with breakfast in their hands, eating, all that dust blowing. I said, no. We have to change the mindset of these kids. The culture has to change. So we created a dining room where they can go in, sit down, buy the breakfast, eat, that sort of stuff.
Social skills.
You see? And so, yeah.
And then the paper, the container ain't going on the ground.
No, it's going in the garbage.
You know.
And hopefully you're using a recyclable.
The thing is, you use the holistic approach in developing a child for life.
But that's the years they're in, right? The molding years.
Can I ask you something? We're very deliberate about who we bring in to talk to the guys on a weekly basis. I try to find people. We try to weigh it out. We try to find people who are successful, but we look for positive figures who have come from similar backgrounds, like who have either come from the area, who have gone to the school, who would have gone to a public school, but have made a success for themselves. And, you know, they all talk about their different experiences, etc. But do you find that our young people lack that kind of those kinds of role models on a regular basis, and people who can speak to their positive experiences? Because I find that, you know, a lot of times when we become a success at whatever we do, we don't look back. We don't look back at the community. We don't look back at the school. We don't even talk about our experiences to success. I have my big house, my good job, my family, my nice car. I don't want to talk about where I come from and what I did. But, you know, there are thousands of young people out there who are probably wondering, is it possible for me to achieve this? How can I achieve that? I mean, my teachers tell me, study hard, but that's what they're supposed to do. But do you find that we lack enough examples of success that our young people see every day, or people just coming back to say, hey, I did it, I got out, you can too? And, you know, as I said to them, you don't have to be a 4.0 student. I certainly wasn't. And you know, but it is about the positive reinforcement, and sometimes, in some cases, what I find a lack of positive reinforcement.
And interest is a very serious thing. In schools, we need to improve or try to put into these kids an interest of why they're in school. And once you do that, then it's so many things that will fall in line. They would want to listen to persons who would have been successful in life. Interest. Interest. We at R.M. Bailey, we try to create so many different things in that school because we see the necessity of what is needed. We created with barbering, judo. We have the plumbing, the welding, the auto mechanics, electrical installation. That's those sorts of stuff. See, I want to say this before I forget that in this country we need to create trade schools. When we look out in the communities and we see these young men walking around, getting involved in all of these social ills, the crime and so forth, it is simply because they're not prepared for life.
Well, you can't find Mason in the book.
Yeah, I'm saying it bothers me when persons come to my country to do construction. They say, well, 50% of the Bahamas labor force is unskilled. That bothers me.
Need to make trade schools available and make them accessible to our young women as well, rather than asking for making documents that they don't have.
And take away the stigma. You see, we have a problem that if you are a certain profession, you've arrived.
Yes, or if you aren't a certain profession, you aren't a success.
Right. Yeah. So the reality is there are masons required. There are carpenters required. There are plumbers required, and these professions are hard to find.
Yes.
And if you have 5,000 people out of school every year, you shouldn't have a problem finding a mason or a carpenter or a plumber.
But I do share a little different view in that respect as well. I think I sometimes I find that kids are limited in the options that they are given for career choices, because I particularly when I go to career fairs, a lot of time people come in and say, well, John, could you come and do a table for us, etc. And by and large, the tables that are always busy are any hotel that's set up.
Correct.
The Defense Force table, the Police Force table, the Nurses table, and a few others.
No plumbing table?
No. And then there is, for instance, kids don't think that maybe I could become a marine biologist. Maybe I can work to Dolphin Key and train seals. Maybe I can get into creating online games. I'm always on my phone doing something. And so sometimes I find, and this is on a national level, that kids aren't exposed enough to the possibilities. And it's not necessarily just in the school, but I think even parents would say to them, but you go find one government job, and so you could, make a couple of dollars and be okay, or go try work in a hotel. Whereas that child may be interested in the non-traditional job, but is that I'm always curious as to whether those options are provided.
You see, and that's I had a conversation with my head department for the School of Technology, and I said to our listener, I want a display of every trade in the school set up under that tent, so we can see who is interested or garnish an interest of these children in these various things, these various trades. Every one of those I want to set up under the tent.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so we'll be looking forward in doing that.
And I've seen. Let me tell you how I saw that happen. We had a speaker come in who was the head of an IT. At a major company, and he went through a full gamut of careers in IT, and he talked about, if this is your interest, these are the kinds of careers you want. And one of the gentlemen in the program, one of the young men, has said to me, I want to be a gamer. I want to now go and create software for games. And I said, you just thought, he said, yeah, after Mr. So-and-so came, he said, I realized. And what I tell him? I said, you're all on your phone on WhatsApp and all these other guys. Google.
Yeah.
Go look. If you see something that you like doing, go see how you can get a job out of it.
Do we not have the capacity, though, to look at the curriculum? Because I don't know what, I'm going to make a guess. I don't know what the basic curriculum is. Geography, history, chemistry, physics, biology, math, English. I don't know if they still have English literature. And then you maybe have some things like you say you have barber. Some. I almost want to call them boutique courses because no one, and I'm not saying this to be offensive, takes it serious.
Yeah. They do.
Okay.
They do so.
No. I mean, your school might do. I'm talking about from a curriculum planning perspective. You've got to force those in, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to if you said just open it up, just open it wide up and wide. Why is in this day and age, I'm just thinking, why is geography that big of a deal compared to, say, auto mechanics? Mm-hmm. Do you have auto mechanics, by the way, in your school? Yeah. Now, someone is going to be thought of like, well, if he do auto mechanics, he all that. But if he do geography, he's big thing. We have to get out of the, you know what I'm saying? You have to get out of the mindset of what a course means. All it means is you are learning how to be a part of society.
And I'm sorry.
And it doesn't matter which part of society you know.
After you learn the continents and the countries, as far as I get to, I got to stop geography.
By the way, let me tell you something. Geography, and I don't know why I picked on geography, because geography, when you get to the college level, is the largest interdisciplinary class you could take. That's where the people who go to the CIA and the languages, it's a very
vigorous.
It's a very meteorologists come out of the geography programs, all of those cartographers. It's a big deal, right? I'm not saying it shouldn't be conserved, right? Say again?
Extremely big deal.
You agree with me? You agree with me, Mr. McIntosh?
In all of our conversation, I haven't heard anything about agriculture.
Yeah.
That's something I am,
but
really...
again, you talk about stigma.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
We talk about agriculture feeding ourselves.
Yeah.
That should be a program that's in every school.
Yeah.
You apply it?
I mean, you have whole colleges that are just, A&M. That's agriculture.
Schools of agriculture. Yeah.
Every school should have an agriculture program in it.
Yeah. Is that where BAMC is heading? But that's on the tertiary level, though. That's not the...
My view on that is that I don't believe we should wait until the kids
graduate
at a certain level to have an interest.
That's a tertiary level.
It should be
probably the primary level.
I was going to say junior, but you go with primary.
Yeah, primary level.
Yes,
kids like to play outside.
Yes.
That's the best time to catch them.
Yes, and by the time it's that, they have an interest.
Before we go, I got to talk to you about this particular thing, because I want to get back with you, which is your core, and that's discipline. You've seen recently some of the unfortunate things, and by the way, unfortunate things can happen anywhere in some of the schools with the stabbing and the this and the that. What has been your experience at R.M. Bailey since you've been there 6 years ago? I know your predecessor, Mr. Omler, was fairly rigid as well. But not Mr. Omler. Anderson, right. Mm-hmm. What has been the kind of experience at your school? And how do kids, because my feeling is that kids require discipline. They want discipline. Mm-hmm. What has been your experience with regard to that?
See, like I said earlier, I'm a disciplinarian.
Look at you, and you take pride in that.
Disciplinarian. Because I've never seen a successful person who didn't have any discipline. And that's why I say to my kids, let me tell you something. When you go home in the evenings, throw your shoes way up under the bed. So when you get up in the morning, you got to go down on your knees. And while you're down there, you say some things. You talk to God. He will take you through the day. You ask him for some blessings. He'll take you through the day. And so we don't tolerate foolishness at R.M. Bailey.
If a gang, let's talk basics. Gangs. That's what the word is out there, that the schools have been overwhelmed with gangs. Gangs and gang violence. What is your experience at R.M. Bailey, and how you combat that?
I said you have to build a culture within your school. You have to get into the mindset of the children. See, it took us 6+ years to build what we have right now. It just didn't happen overnight. And I can't stop using the word discipline. When you see at the mornings, they are checked at the gate. Mind you, you have loopholes. Kids throw things, they throw things over, that sort of stuff. But we are consistent. See, not only being disciplined, you have to be consistent with the discipline.
Can't be up and down.
You can't say I can do this today, I can miss tomorrow, miss the next day, and then come back again. No, you have to be consistent from the beginning of the school year, and I didn't say the beginning of the school term. I say from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. That's in June. From September to June, consistency. And when these children see that you're consistent, then see, my thing is though, if you're not on the same path, if you're not coming to R.M. Bailey with a purpose, if you don't walk with a purpose, then you can't be around me.
And by the way, in my day, when you weren't in school, the teacher could call you out. You know, I don't know if it's extended that for you, but how are the parents? See, this is at the end of the day, because you have them for so many hours in a day, and they have to go back to their environments, as you say, and the environment is half the battle, right? How are the parents' reception to this? We only got a couple of minutes to talk about it.
One good thing with me, this is 39 years now, and the kids in my school, they're my grands. I taught the parents. Maybe in the 5 schools, I taught their parents. So when I see them, the parent comes, I taught the parent pass through me. So there's no problems with that. Okay. But, you know, research has proven that whenever the parent is involved in the education of their children, the children becomes successful.
Right.
They got to see the
same. And are the parents embracing that?
Yeah, hand in hand. That's why R.M. Bailey is so successful.
Yeah. Mr. McCoy also said that. He said, you know, once you get that parent buy-in.
Yes, it's a community, you know. It takes a village.
You see?
To raise a child.
It's strange because, you know, even in the program, you can tell, first of all, you see the parents who come to collect. I see the parents who come to collect them in the evening, or who express that interest. And you can tell by the behavior of that student, for the most part, how involved or how disciplined that parent is. You know, and I see it. I'm like, okay, well, now I understand why, you know, certain kids come with a different mindset. But just before you go, I just want to say congratulations to you all. The young men, the gentlemen, as I refer to them every week, the gentlemen that are a part of the program are very well disciplined. I can't knock on wood and say I've had no issues with them, with their behavior in the evening, and it's really nothing stopping them from acting out.
When does this program take place?
We meet every Tuesday at 4 p.m. at R.M. Bailey, and it's a program just for boys, and it's called Guide Right, put on by Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. But I really have to commend you because, you know, our concern was, boy, we dealing with high school fellas every evening, you know, what are we going to face? But we've had no... they didn't get them to settle down.
And the location of the school.
We had done it years ago at C.H. Reeves, so which is right next door.
R.M. Bailey is a school of excellence.
It is, and you ought to be commended.
Institution of learning.
Yeah,
it is an institution of learning.
They're good gentlemen, they're good fellas. I enjoy going there.
He's an excited fellow, boy.
R.M. Bailey is an institution of learning.
Okay, I got to ask him that tomorrow. That's their trivia question. Tell me something about R.M. Bailey tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Colin Johnson and Mr. Delvado. I got it right? Delvado. I can get it sooner or later, Delvado. Okay? Delvado McIntosh, it's been a pleasure having both of you. Thank you very much.